and House Republicans have been presenting between their reckless and partisan spending bill and a government shutdown. Why are we here right now in terms of the moment that is in front of us? It's because Donald Trump and House Republicans decided to walk away from the negotiating table when there were bipartisan conversations ongoing between House Democrats, House Republicans, Senate Democrats, and Senate Republicans in a manner consistent with the Bipartisan Fiscal Responsibility Act that was passed in May of 2022. Donald Trump ordered House Republicans to walk away from the negotiating table at the end of February. House Republicans then passed a partisan and reckless bill that cuts funding for health care, cuts funding for veterans, and cuts funding for nutritional assistance to children and families. It's an unacceptable, unconscionable, and un-American spending bill. That's why House Democrats remain strongly opposed. Donald Trump orders them to walk away from the negotiating table. Step one. Step two, House Republicans pass a partisan and reckless spending bill. And then step three, House Republicans get out of town. Where are they at right now? House Democrats are here. We're ready to pass a 4-week spending bill that keeps the government open and will allow the House and the Senate to negotiate an actual agreement that is designed to hurt the American people that Donald Trump and far-right extremist Republicans are trying to jam down the throats of everyday Americans. And I yield to our distinguished whip, Catherine Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader. Proud to stand here with you and Chairman Aguilar. What we saw is a GOP that campaigned on a promise to the American people that they would lower their costs, they would make their families safer. And in the last 7 weeks, we've seen them do just the opposite. They've slashed Medicaid. They've taken away veterans' benefits. They are attacking the funding for our public schools. They are out there saying elimination of Social Security and Medicare, it's the only way to balance our budget. And we have been clear with this process that led us to this vote today that we would join them in any CR, in any spending plan that protected Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans' benefits, feed hungry kids in this country, and keep our schools open. But that's not what they did. And when they put forward this bill, not only is it bad on the four corners of it, but we saw House GOP member after House GOP member come out and say in public, I wasn't sure about signing on to this until I met with the Trump administration, and they told me this is their vehicle for further dismantling the services that people who work for a living depend on in this country. And that's why we're unified in our opposition. And we are not going to buy into this false binary decision that it's a parade of bad choices. We know that already. We know what this administration and their enablers in the GOP and Congress are doing to the American people. Shutdowns are terrible. But so is this dismantling and this scheme to take deserving taxpayers' money and give it to the billionaire class. Each and every step of this is part of that scheme against everyday Americans who are waving their hands at this administration and saying, live up to what you told us you would do. You are betraying us. There's a reason the House GOP said, let's cancel town halls, because they don't want to face the voters they are betraying. So we're saying at this moment, come back to the table. Come back and negotiate. We've never had a shutdown where one party controls the White House, the House, and the Senate. That has never happened for a reason. And so this is a very unprecedented situation and an unprecedented disaster for the people who sent us here. If we do not do everything in our power to fight back and say, come back to the table, make a plan that is centered around the American people. And I'm proud to join in this fight with my friend from California, Chairman Pete Aguilar.
Thank Whip Clark and Leader Jeffries for their continued leadership of House Democrats who have been very clear what side we're on. Leader Jeffries has been consistent in saying we will always stand up for the American people. They are asking us to fight back against this slashing attempt to gut Medicaid, cut Social Security, eliminate the Department of Education, all so the billionaire class can pay less in taxes. This is a fight we're having today and tomorrow and next week, and as long as we were here in Congress. Our constituents are worried about how they're going to pay the bills, how they're going to buy a home, how they're going to send their kids to college. They are seeing their prices go up, and these Republican policies tank the stock market. They're not following the Beltway news of who's up and who's down, but they are very attuned to the Republican recession and that it could cost them their health care and their job. And they know when their elected officials are willing to fight for them. They know when someone is looking out for their own pocketbook or they're looking out for their own self-interest. That's why House Democrats will continue this fight and continue everything we have done to center this around the American people. And we'll continue to do that under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries.
Questions?
Mr. Leader.
Mr. Leader, Mr. Leader.
Has Senator Schumer, in your mind, acquiesced to Trump?
That's a question that is best addressed by the Senate. The vote hasn't taken place yet, and the House Democratic position is very clear. We strongly oppose any efforts to cut the health care, veterans benefits, and nutritional assistance, all of which are in the partisan Republican bill. We're going to continue to support Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, and public schools, while Donald Trump and House Republicans try to take a chainsaw to these important priorities of the American people. We'll see what happens over in the Senate. There are still undecided and undeclared senators, and we anxiously await that vote.
Mr. Leader.
Is it time for new leadership in the Senate?
Next question.
Mr. Leader.
First, can you clarify, are you encouraging your Senate colleagues to vote no on cloture, not just the bill itself?
We've been very clear. We strongly oppose a reckless Republican spending bill. Period. Full stop. Our position, repeatedly articulated this week, speaks for itself.
Mr. Leader.
As Senator Schumer talked to you before making his announcement, can you tell us what he told you and what you said back to him?
He and I have had repeated and private conversations throughout the week, and those conversations will remain private.
Leader Jeffries.
Have you lost confidence?
Have you lost? On the Senate side, they have a much more difficult path than you do on the House side. You guys could all remain united and the bill would still pass. If Democrats stay united against this, the government will shut down. What would you have expected Schumer to do?
This is not about one individual. This is about the American people. That's our view, right? We made a decision based on the four corners of this bill. It will hurt everyday Americans, in our opinion, as Donald Trump and House Republicans have been doing for the last several weeks. Donald Trump promised to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. In fact, to lower grocery costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Inflation is going up. You know what's going down? The stock market is going down. Consumer confidence is going down. Consumer spending is going down. Republicans are crashing the economy in real time and driving America toward a recession. That's what we're concerned about. Not individuals, the American people.
But is a shutdown worse? Is a shutdown worse
Catherine,
than
I think
the bill?
the problem here is that's a false question. That's a false choice.
Schumer said it wasn't.
But this is the House position, that we need to go back to the negotiating table, which they walked away from. They walked away from it. And it's why you see both the Senate and the House chairs of appropriations saying 30 days. Give us 30 days to put the American people's voices back in this process. And when you're in the minority, you only have a few real points where you can use the powers that you have, the procedural moves that you have, to do the right thing by people who are terrified of where this country is going and where it's going to leave them and their families. So back to the negotiating table, why is that some wild-eyed idea? It's like, let's come back together. If you're serious about cutting costs, protecting Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, our schools, our veterans, come back to the table and work that out. The choice of having a shutdown when you're the party that runs everything is preposterous. It's just outrageous. They're even trying to say somehow that's the choice that Democrats are making. You run everything, but what you're trying to do is scam the American people out of their money and the services they paid for and they deserve. So, let's be realistic about what this fight is. We are simply saying, go back to the negotiating table. It's not about a shutdown versus a particular spending bill. It's, are we going to center around the American people and do what's right for them, or are we not?
And all these, fun DC words, cloture, continuing resolution, what the American people need to know is that House Democrats are willing to work in a bipartisan way to keep government open for 30 days. That's all we want. That's our solution. It's not perfect. It doesn't solve all of our problems, but it centers the debate around the American people. It pauses what would be a reckless shutdown at the hands of Donald Trump, and it says, let's keep negotiating. Let's work on our funding bills. Let's give Rosa DeLauro and Tom Cole, Patty Murray, and Susan Collins some time to work on these spending bills, and then let's come back and let's see what the next couple of weeks hold. But we have to pass funding bills in a bipartisan process. It's a 3-page bill probably. It's not 99 pages that cuts the veterans' care that they deserve. It's a couple-page bill. We could put that on the floor. We can get that done. We can pass it. We can go home. We can talk to our constituents about this, and we can center this around the American people.
So,
It sounds like this message was sent to the Senate, received, and then they decided yesterday, for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have the votes, Leader Schumer decided to walk away from that and go with the GOP plan. There are some colleagues of yours here in the House that feel betrayed. Is that what you're feeling right now?
Vote hasn't happened. There are undecided and undeclared Democratic senators who are evaluating what is the right thing to do for the American people. We've made that decision as House Democrats, and we're going to stick by that decision because we believe we are on the side of the American people.
Mr. Leader, House Democrats...
Third row.
Leader Jeffries, when it comes to FY26, looking to September, some Democrats have expressed concerns that seeing how the process had played out this week will set a tone for the upcoming fiscal year. Do you share those concerns, and what have you learned from this process for the next fiscal year?
Our general view is that we do not want to shut down the government, but we are not afraid of a government funding showdown. And we will win that showdown. because we stand on the side of the American people.
What's the difference between a shutdown and a showdown to you?
Next question.
To follow up, though, you talk about the problem with saying, oh, this isn't just one individual, but still, doesn't this still send a message to Americans, the fact that it's the leader of the Senate, Democrats, who has already said he's making this decision, and you already have 66 of your House colleagues sending him a letter saying that they're not approving of this?
When I travel the country, the American people are concerned about if their kids get sick, can they go see a doctor? And we have a problem with the fact that Republicans are cutting health care in this partisan spending bill. There are veterans in this country who want to know that after serving this country, sacrificing, putting their lives on the line, that their country will be there for them in the way that they were there for America. There are mothers and fathers who are struggling to make ends meet. They are working hard. They're playing by the rules. But they're not sure whether they can put food on the table day to day, week to week, month to month. And the Republicans in this bill, just like they're cutting veterans' benefits, are cutting nutritional assistance to children and families. That's what we have a problem with. That Republicans are hurting the American people. That's why House Democrats are strongly opposed to this bill.
Leader Jeffries, your Senator Chuck Schumer is from your state. He clearly has a different view of this than you. He is not saying let's go back to the negotiating table. He's saying let's take this vote. So have you lost confidence in him, the fact that you guys see this so differently?
Next question.
Leader Jeffries. I want to go back to my colleague's question. Can you clarify what you mean by showdown versus shutdown? That you guys are ready for a showdown, but not a shutdown. What is a showdown versus what may occur if the Senate takes this vote?
Listen, it speaks for itself. Let's be clear about the party who shuts down the government. It's not Democrats, it's Republicans, repeatedly. In the 1990s, House Republicans, led by Newt Gingrich, shut down the government twice because they wanted to cut Medicaid. Democrats rejected that position. And Republicans were forced to reopen the government and engage in an unconditional surrender. In 2013, my first year in the Congress, House Republicans, the Tea Party, Ted Cruz, they shut the government down 14 days in October because they wanted President Obama and Democrats to repeal the Affordable Care Act. They told us my way and the highway. We showed them the highway. And after 14 days, Republicans engaged in an unconditional surrender, and the Affordable Care Act is alive and well. And all of us were here, and in various forms of leadership during the 35-day government shutdown. It started in December of 2018, and it carried all the way into February or so of 2019. In that shutdown, Donald Trump closed the government because he wanted Democrats to divert taxpayer dollars, billions of taxpayer dollars, to pay for his medieval border wall that he promised Mexico would pay for. And he wanted to take American taxpayer dollars away from defense and national security. We told him to get lost. And after 35 days, Republicans engaged in an unconditional surrender. What I'm saying speaks for itself. Check the history. We're on the right side of the American people. We don't want to shut the government down. They do. But we're not afraid of a showdown.
Mr. Leader, House Democrats have been united in their opposition against this continuing resolution, but that's a different position that we're hearing from Senate leadership. How does this not play into those accusations that Democrats are not unified?
House Democrats remain very unified. Let me yield to Captain Clark and Pete Aguilar.
But what about the party itself? I mean,
You asked the question.
we're hearing two different messages.
You asked the question, can we answer it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think what we've seen time and time again is that we have come together. Listen, we're here on behalf of House Democrats, and we know who we have to fight for. We are in a crisis that has been happening in the last 7 weeks. We have seen Doge and Elon Musk going into our most secure data banks, rifling through people's healthcare information, social security information. We don't know what they're doing with that. We are taking them to court, over 100 lawsuits, and we are winning on behalf of the American people. But it doesn't stop their chainsaws. They're going right through everything the American people need to be successful. They're telling us they'll eliminate Social Security. They've already voted in the House to devastate Medicaid. You cannot take Medicaid away and not close nursing homes in this country. Take away health insurance from children. Close rural hospitals first, but other hospitals will follow. And you can't do that to Medicaid and not soar the costs of health insurance and health care in this country for everybody else and put an undue pressure on Medicare. So what we're saying is you have to choose a side right now. We have to fight for our country, for our national security, and most of all, for the security of families at home. And we are united in that. And this parlor game here about, most American people, they can't name us. They don't know who Chuck Schumer is. But they do know what this administration and Elon Musk and the GOP are planning for them. And it's why you're seeing this uproar in town halls. It's why you are seeing in very, very Republican parts of this country, veterans expressing their frustration and their outrage that they've cut 7,000 of them from jobs, that they have a spokesperson from the White House who says, well, those veterans weren't fit to work.
But your party's not on the same page here. Schumer's arguing that a shutdown would be more catastrophic because the White House would choose which federal agencies remain open and would thus give more power to Doge.
Our party is united on this front, that we will stand with the American people. And we are having a disagreement here. But this is what unites us, is that we're going to continue to work for those people who work for a living, who are looking at their budgets, their family budgets. They're not sure they're going to make it, and they're not sure their place in the future. And as they see their retirement, their Social Security, all being threatened, when they can't afford childcare and eggs and the basics, and they certainly don't know how their kids or they can afford to buy a house, those are the issues that we are saying come back to the table and work on.
I had the privilege of presiding over the House Democratic Caucus Retreat with Clark, Leader Jeffries, and Vice Chair Liu over the last few days. And to a person, House Democrats knew the task at hand. We knew we had to talk about the 2024 election, and we did. We knew we had to talk about how we defend against Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and House Republicans coming after their health care. And we knew we have to talk about an affirmative agenda to lower the costs that people face. We did that. And to a person, House Democrats understand what is in front of us. We know that this is about the American people. Now, I don't expect our Senate colleagues to lose a lot of sleep or to think a lot about how House Democrats feel. What we're asking them to keep in mind is, how do the American people feel? How will the American people feel when Donald Trump and Elon Musk have more authority and ability to comb through agencies, to fire veterans, to cut benefits? How will the American people feel, and is that a vote you're comfortable owning? I think that's the question that the Senate has. We are comfortable as House Democrats that we are standing for the American people in this moment, against this Republican assault on working class families.
Leader Jeffries.
Mr. Leader, you have dodged multiple times questions about whether you have confidence right now in Chuck Schumer. Can I just, to clarify here, none of you are willing to say at this point that you have confidence in Chuck Schumer as leader?
You keep engaging in these parlor games because you want to take the focus off the American people. What we're saying is we look forward to continuing to work with our Senate colleagues, all of them, in opposition to the extremism that's being unleashed on the American people. But the focus right now is on everyday Americans, on children, on families, on veterans, on the people that we are fighting for, who Donald Trump and House Republicans are intentionally trying to hurt. In a moment where Donald Trump and that whole crew, they are tanking the economy in real time, failing to deliver on their promises to make life better for the American people. And in fact, things are getting worse. That's why Donald Trump's poll numbers aren't going up, they're going down, just like the stock market.
We're asking that because real people are protesting. There are 11 people that were arrested today outside of Schumer's office. That's the only, we're not playing any tricks. We're just asking.
I travel the country.
Yeah.
I represent a district in Brooklyn. I'll be in that district in a few days. I'll be in church on Sunday. I'll be having events on Monday. We have a Medicaid Day of Action on Tuesday. I look forward to reporting back to all of you when I've had conversations with those very everyday Americans that Pete's privileged to represent in the Inland Empire, that Catherine's privileged to represent in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that I'm privileged to represent in Brooklyn. But I know what they say to me about what matters to them. The fact that they have been struggling to get ahead in an America that's the wealthiest country in the history of the world. It's not acceptable that far too many people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. Can't get ahead and can barely get by. That's not acceptable. And that's why House Democrats are taking a stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thank you.
All you have to do is say yes.
All you have to do is say yes. You say, I have complete faith in Leader Schumer.
You didn't even have to say that.
No.